Totally crazy. Michael Saylor was on Jordan Peterson's show and spoke to an audience of millions about the end of the dollar, saying that people should rather buy Bitcoin to protect themselves from this event. And not only that, the US government also has some crazy plans with Bitcoin, and the chairman of the US Securities and Exchange Commission said something that's absolutely bullish. Let's take a look at this right now. And Cardano founder Charles Hoskinson now even believes that Bitcoin could rise to $250,000 to $500,000 in the near future if a certain thing happens. Listen to this. The US Union will become a hero with 212 zero Bitcoin. There are major financial institutions like BlackRock and others getting involved. And if the Fortune 500 starts buying, then the market structure bill will probably see $250,000 to $500,000 Bitcoin in the next 24 months. And by the end of the decade, I wouldn't be surprised to see millions of dollars. So if the US law is passed, according to Charles Hoskinson, we will see a strong increase in the price of Bitcoin. And not only that, the White House's crypto director, speaking for the Trump administration, recently stated that the US will soon announce plans to accumulate more Bitcoin. He emphasized that even the Democratic colleagues recognize that this asset class must be utilized for the benefit of the American people. Other countries are already working to accumulate as much Bitcoin as possible, including China, for example. And journalists kept asking him how much Bitcoin the US actually wants to have. He called this question ridiculous and made it clear that the US aims to acquire as much Bitcoin as possible, but in a way that doesn't cost taxpayers a single cent and remains budget neutral. He went on to explain that there are countless ways to achieve this goal, and the White House will implement these ideas quickly, because according to him, there isn't just one way, but hundreds, if not thousands of options to accumulate Bitcoin. As an example, he mentioned bid bonds or the possibility of accepting taxes in Bitcoin. However, he did not want to reveal any specific details in order not to jeopardize the process. The goal basically is to find the best strategy for the United States of America, and as soon as the plans are ready, they will be announced. They are also confident that the crypto community will be very pleased with them.
Our Democratic counterparts certainly recognize that we have to harness this asset class for the American people, and there's certainly going to be countries overseas that are racing to accumulate as much as they can. And I've had this question asked to me repeatedly by journalists, like, how much do you want? I'm like, that's the silliest question of all time. And lo and behold, I get asked that question.
I was going to ask that.
No, I mean, I will say very clearly, we want as much Bitcoin as we can possibly get. We have to do this in budget neutral ways that don't cost taxpayers a dime, but there are countless ways in which we can do it. And if you read the fine print of the executive order, it kicks these innovative ideas over to Commerce and Treasury to come up with. But we'll flesh these out among our working group members. We will move expeditiously on those that can be quickly implemented. But it's not one size fits all. It's not like we have to do this in one singular format. There can be hundreds of different ways we do this, if not thousands. And so we talked about this in different verticals, whether it be through mining activity, whether it be through bit bonds. I mean, there are tons of creative things we can do.
Like taxes.
Yeah, I mean, it's endless. And so people ask me to give clear examples. And the reason I don't want to tell you what we're going to do first yet is because I really don't want to poison the well. We want to do something that's going to be the most effective for the United States. And so when we're ready to announce that, which I'm sure we will be in short order, I think that this community will be extremely pleased.
And the next positive thing, Paul Atkins, the chairman of the US Securities and Exchange Commission, the SEC, has clearly spoken out in favor of self-custody of Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies. He emphasizes that an important feature of blockchain technology is that individuals can store their crypto assets themselves in a personal digital wallet. He sees this right to self-custody of one's own property as a fundamental American value that should be preserved even in the digital age. According to him, even when logging onto the internet, this principle must not be lost. And Paul Atkins advocates for giving market participants more flexibility to manage their crypto assets independently, especially when intermediaries cause unnecessary transaction costs without restricting the ability to make investments and carry out other activities on the blockchain. He considers self-custody to be a sensible alternative. His statement emphasizes that freedom and control over one's own assets should be at the heart of the crypto world. And if you're interested in self-custody of your crypto, click the link in the description below the video.
Another core feature of blockchain technology is the ability of individuals to have self-custody of crypto assets in a personal digital wallet. The right to have self-custody of one's private property is a foundational American value that should not disappear when one logs onto the internet. I'm in favor of affording greater flexibility to market participants to self-custody their crypto assets, especially in particular cases where intermediation imposes unnecessary transaction costs or restricts the ability to engage in staking and other on-chain activities.
As more and more people move toward crypto and Bitcoin, Michael Saylor warned about the collapse of the dollar and discussed the concept of perfect money in an interview with Jordan Peterson. Michael Saylor explained that during the era of the gold standard, prices remained stable because the supply of gold grew by about 2% annually and the economy expanded at the same rate, creating a balance that kept prices constant. Michael Saylor went on to explain that with a fixed money supply and annual economic growth of about 2%, prices would decrease by 2% every year. Saylor also addressed the impact of technology on prices, emphasizing that in areas where productivity increases by more than 2%, prices could drop rapidly. For example, if productivity rises by 20% per year and the money supply grows by 10%, prices would still fall by 10%. And without that increase in the money supply, they would drop by as much as 20%. According to Saylor, there is a constant race between productivity and the money supply. And in the conversation, Michael Saylor then turned to gold, which he described as a traditional asset and the best idea of the 19th century, but one that reached its limits in the 20th century. He then considered how gold could be improved. A perfect gold, he said, would no longer be mineable, would be weightless, and could be transferred anywhere instantly. Michael Saylor envisioned an ideal monetary system based on modern technology, securely storing a fixed supply of 21 million digital coins that can be quickly and securely transferred to anyone at any time. These coins could be divided into tiny units called satoshis, and the system would enable transactions that are lightning fast, free of charge, and tamper-proof and would remain so permanently. To illustrate this, Michael Saylor cited the example of Argentina, where the currency has repeatedly collapsed. The Argentine peso, he said, lost its value from 1 peso per dollar to 1,000 pesos per dollar within 20 years, a pattern that has repeated itself 5 times over the past century. And an ideal monetary system, such as the one described, could be a salvation for such countries and fundamentally change the global economy, concluded Michael Saylor.
The reason that you had stable prices throughout the gold era, the gold standard age, is that gold was inflating at about 2% a year, and the economy is growing at 2% a year.
Mm-hmm.
And so if the output of goods and services grows at the same rate as the money supply, prices remain constant.
Okay.
Okay? If the money supply is fixed and the economy grows by 2% a year, prices will fall by 2% every year.
Right.
Right? Then that went in, by the way, in technology, when you look at technical products where the company grows productivity faster than 2% in a gold world, the price would fall very fast. Okay, so what's going on is there's a race between productivity and money supply. And if I can drive the price of the product down by 20% a year, I can inflate the money supply by 10% a year, and the price of that thing will still fall by 10%. But if I didn't inflate the money supply, the price would fall by 20%, you see? So I looked at gold. I said, I need something like gold. But the problem with gold is it's a conventional asset, and it had kind of recovered a bit. And I thought, it's not perfect. It's the best idea of the 19th century, and it's not quite working in the 20th century. And so I started thinking, what if someone designed digital gold? And now we go back to the engineer saying, can you perfect gold? And the engineering idea is, how do you fix gold and make it perfect? Well, you make it impossible to mine any more of it. What if and then we get into the realm of fantasy. What if God came down, and there's a bit of theology here, if you'll allow me. If God came down and wanted to fix gold, it would be impossible to make any more gold, right? How could you make it better? It would be really great if it was weightless. How do you make it better? I'm going to cast a spell and let you teleport the gold anywhere on Earth. If God said, I'm going to implement a system of 21 million gold coins, but we're going to call them God coins, and I'm going to keep them in a bank in heaven, and I'm going to let you transfer, any amount. I'm going to let you subdivide it by 100 million, and we'll call them Satoshis. And I will let you transfer peer-to-peer and pay anyone, anytime, instantly at the speed of light. And I will keep track of the ledger of who owes.
In an incorruptible way.
Exactly. I will never cheat you.
Mm.
And I will do it forever for free, If God offered you that kind of divine bank, and you were sitting in Argentina when the currency was collapsing to zero, the Argentine peso went from $1 per peso to 1,000 pesos per dollar over 20 years. And it did that 5 times over the century.
Right.
So we are standing at a turning point in history, and Bitcoin is right in the middle of it. Michael Saylor sounded the alarm on Jordan Peterson's show in front of an audience of 1 million. The dollar is teetering on the brink of collapse, and anyone who wants to protect themselves should buy Bitcoin as quickly as possible. But it gets even crazier. The US government, led by visions from the White House, is planning to accumulate massive amounts of Bitcoin, and to do so in a completely budget-neutral way, without wasting a single cent of taxpayer money. Hundreds, if not thousands, of ideas like Bitcoin mining, Bitbonds, or paying taxes in Bitcoin are being discussed, and soon the crypto community will explode with excitement when these plans are revealed. And Charles Hoskinson, the mind behind Cardano, already sees Bitcoin reaching $250,000 to $500,000 $100,000 per Bitcoin in the near future, a surge that could be further accelerated by a new US law. And Paul Atkins, the head of the US Securities and Exchange Commission, takes it even further. For him, self-custody of Bitcoin is an American fundamental right. He demands freedom and control over our assets without expensive middlemen. And that means if you want to benefit from this, if you want to build financial independence through Bitcoin and crypto, if you want to know which cryptocurrencies I invest in, click the link in the description below the video and check it out.